Why America is not as rich as you think. America, the richest country on earth. GDP of 28 trillion, the global reserve currency. Home to Apple, Amazon, Google, Tesla, the land of opportunity where anyone can make it. Except, here's what they don't tell you. Strip away the corporate valuations, the stock market illusions, the debt-fueled consumption, and you discover something disturbing. America isn't rich. Americans are broke. The median household has $8,000 in savings. 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Real wages adjusted for inflation haven't increased in 50 years. The average American today has less purchasing power than their parents did in 1973, but the GDP keeps growing. Corporate profits keep breaking records. Billionaires keep getting richer. So who's actually wealthy? It's not you, not your neighbors, not 90% of the country. The wealth is concentrated at the very top. And the mechanism that creates this illusion, the structure that makes America look rich while Americans get poorer, was built deliberately. This isn't economic evolution, this is economic engineering. And once you see how it works, you'll understand why 28 trillion in GDP doesn't mean what you think it means. Let me show you the three mechanisms that create the illusion of American wealth. The historical decisions that built this system, and why the numbers that make America look rich actually prove most Americans are getting destroyed. Before we dismantle the illusion, you need to understand what wealth actually is. Not GDP, not stock prices, not corporate valuations. Real wealth is what you can buy with what you earn. It's purchasing power. In 1973, the median American household earned $57,000 in inflation-adjusted dollars. Let's start with mechanism number one, the Great Decoupling. For 200 years of American history, wages and productivity moved together. If a worker produced more value, they earned more money. If a company became more profitable, workers shared the gains. This wasn't charity. This was how capitalism was supposed to work. You work harder, you produce more, you get paid more, everyone benefits. That system died in 1971, and it died because of one decision by one man. Richard Nixon. August 15, 1971, Nixon announced the United States would no longer convert dollars to gold. The Bretton Woods system ended. The dollar became pure fiat currency, no backing, no constraint, just paper. And for the first 10 years it looked like chaos. Inflation spiked, oil prices quadrupled. The economy stagnated. But by 1980, something else happened. Something that changed everything. Wages and productivity decoupled. Before 1971, if productivity increased 10%, wages increased 10%. After 1980, productivity increased 70%. Wages increased 12%. Let that sink in. American workers became 70% more productive. They produced more value per hour than any generation in history. Their wages barely moved. Where did the extra 58% go? Corporate profits? Shareholder returns? Executive compensation? Stock buybacks? Dividends? Everything except worker pay. This is the Great Decoupling, and it's the single largest wealth transfer in American history. Here's how it happened mechanically. In 1980, corporate America faced a choice. Profits were stagnant. Foreign competition was increasing. Unions were strong. Workers demanded raises that matched productivity. Executives had three options. Option 1, accept lower profit margins. Share productivity gains with workers. Maintain the social contract. Option 2, innovate faster. Outcompete foreign rivals through better products. Invest in research and development. Option 3, crush labor's bargaining power. Ship jobs overseas. Break unions. Financialize the economy. They chose option 3. And they had help from the government. Ronald Reagan was elected in 1980. His first major action was breaking the Air Traffic Controllers Union. PATCO, the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization. Went on strike in August 1981. Reagan fired all 11,000 of them. He replaced them with military controllers and strikebreakers. The message was clear. Unions are finished. Strike and you're gone. Union membership collapsed. In 1980, 25% of American workers were unionized. By 2024, 10%. And in the private sector, 6%. Without unions, workers had no bargaining power. Wages stagnated. benefits disappeared. Pensions were replaced with 401 kiloseconds. Healthcare became expensive. Job security vanished. But productivity kept increasing. Technology made workers more efficient. Computers, automation, software. One worker in 2024 produces what 5 workers produced in 1980. But that one worker doesn't earn 5 times as much. They earn the same, adjusted for inflation. The extra value goes to shareholders. And who are the shareholders? Not workers? 93% of stocks are owned by the top 10% of Americans. The bottom 50% own 1% of stocks. So when productivity increases and profits go to shareholders, wealth flows upward. Workers produce more, owners get richer. This is the decoupling. And it's not an accident. It's policy. Tax cuts for corporations. Trade deals that incentivized offshoring. Deregulation of finance, union busting. Stock buybacks, legalized in 1982, which let companies use profits to inflate stock prices instead of raising wages. Every policy decision from 1980 to 2024 was designed to transfer wealth from labor to capital, and it worked. Corporate profits as a share of GDP went from 5% in 1980 to 12% in 2024. Labor's share of income went from 65% to 58%. That 7% shift represents trillions of dollars. Trillions that should have gone to workers, but went to owners instead. America looks rich because corporate valuations are enormous. Apple is worth $3 trillion, Microsoft $2.8 trillion, Amazon $1.7 trillion. But those valuations don't make Americans rich. They make shareholders rich. And most Americans aren't shareholders. This is mechanism 1. Decouple wages from productivity. Let workers produce more while paying them the same. Transfer the gains to capital. Repeat for 40 years. The result is a country that looks wealthy on paper while its citizens get poorer in reality. Now let's look at mechanism number 2. Asset inflation without wage inflation. Here's a question nobody asks. Why did housing prices go up 1,500% while wages went up 30%? It's not supply and demand. America built millions of homes between 1973 and 2024. The supply increased, but so did prices. The reason is simple: money printing. When the Federal Reserve creates money, that money doesn't go to workers. It goes to the financial system. Banks, hedge funds, private equity, institutional investors. These entities use that money to buy assets: real estate, stocks, bonds, commodities. When they buy, prices go up. This is asset inflation. And it's how the rich get richer while everyone else gets crushed. Here's the mechanism. In 2008, the financial system collapsed. Banks failed. The stock market crashed. The housing market imploded. Federal Reserve could have let it collapse. Let the bad investments fail. Let prices reset. Let workers buy houses at affordable prices again. But they didn't. Instead, they launched quantitative easing, QE. The Fed created trillions of dollars and used it to buy bonds from banks. The banks took that cash and bought assets: stocks, real estate, corporate bonds, everything. Asset prices recovered. Then they surged. The stock market went from 6,500 in 2009 to 35,000 in 2024, a 500% increase. Housing prices doubled. Corporate bonds tripled. If you owned assets in 2009, you got rich. If you didn't, you got priced out because wages didn't increase 500%. Wages increased 15%. So the gap between asset owners and workers exploded. In 2000, the median home price was 3.5 times the median income. Expensive, but achievable. By 2024, it's 7 times the median income. Unaffordable for most. The system created inflation in assets while suppressing inflation in wages. Why? Because asset owners vote. Asset owners donate to campaigns. Asset owners run the Federal Reserve. Alan Greenspan, former Fed chairman, was a Wall Street banker. Ben Bernanke, former Fed chairman, works for a hedge fund now. Janet Yellen, current Treasury Secretary, collected $7 million in speaking fees from banks before taking office. The people running monetary policy are the same people who benefit from asset inflation.
Yes.
So of course they print money to inflate asset prices. Of course they keep interest rates low to make borrowing cheap for investors. Of course they bail out banks when investments fail. The system protects asset owners and it destroys workers. Because when housing costs 7 times your income, when rent takes 40% of your paycheck, when you can't afford to buy because investors bought everything, you're not building wealth. You're transferring it. Yeah. Every month, you send rent to a landlord. The landlord uses that rent to buy more properties. You stay a renter forever. The landlord gets richer. This is mechanism 2. Print money, give it to financial institutions. Let them buy assets. Prices go up, workers get priced out. Wealth concentrates at the top. America looks rich because asset prices are high. But Americans are broke because they don't own the assets. The median American household has $192,000 in net worth. Sounds decent, but $150,000 of that is home equity. And that equity doesn't help you unless you sell and move somewhere cheaper, which most people can't do. The other $42,000 is retirement accounts, cars, savings, that's it. Meanwhile, the top 1% averages $16 million in net worth. The top 0.1% averages $150 million. The wealth gap isn't closing, it's accelerating. Because every time the Fed prints money, asset prices go up faster than wages. The people who already own assets get richer, while everyone else falls further behind. Mechanism 3. Debt-based consumption that looks like wealth. Here's the American dream, as sold to you. Buy a house with a 30-year mortgage. Buy a car with a 7-year loan. Go to college with student loans. Use credit cards for everything. Finance your lifestyle. Pay it off slowly. This is normal. It's how everyone does it. Except it's not normal. It's a trap. And it's how the system extracts wealth from you for decades. Now let me show you how these 3 mechanisms combine to create the ultimate illusion. GDP growth without prosperity. Since 1980, US GDP increased from $2.8 trillion to $28 trillion. A 10x increase. That should mean Americans are 10 times richer, right? Wrong, because GDP measures economic activity, not wealth distribution. When a billionaire buys a $100 million yacht, that's $100 million added to GDP. When a hedge fund buys $1 billion in real estate, that's $1 billion in GDP. When a corporation does a stock buyback, that's economic activity. It all counts. But none of it makes ordinary Americans wealthier. In fact, it makes them poorer. Because when billionaires and corporations consume resources, prices go up for everyone else. When hedge funds buy houses, housing gets less affordable. When stock buybacks inflate share prices, retirement accounts invested in index funds see gains. But those gains are on paper. You can't spend them without selling. And when you sell, you pay taxes. The system counts the economic activity of the rich as growth, then tells workers the economy is doing great. But workers see their real experience. Rent going up, groceries costing more, healthcare unaffordable, savings impossible. The disconnect between GDP and lived reality is the illusion. America is rich. Americans are broke. Both are true simultaneously, because the wealth is concentrated at the very top. Let me show you exactly how concentrated. The top 1% owns 35% of all wealth. The top 10% owns 70% of all wealth. The bottom 50% owns 2% of all wealth. Half of America combined has less wealth than the top 1%. This isn't inequality. This is wealth extraction. A system designed to transfer money from the many to the few. And it's accelerating. In 1980, the top 1% owned 23% of wealth. Today, 35%. In 1980, the bottom 50% owned 4%. Today, 2%. Over 40 years, the bottom half got poorer. Not relatively, absolutely. Their share of national wealth was cut in half, while the top got exponentially richer. Here's the historical decision that locked this in. The decision nobody talks about. It's the decision that made the current system inevitable. 1981. The Economic Recovery Tax Act, Reagan's first major legislation, cut the top marginal tax rate from 70% to 50%. Then, in 1986, down to 28%. Before 1981, if you earned $1 million, you paid $700,000 in taxes. So why does America look rich when Americans are broke? 3 reasons. First, we measure the wrong things. GDP, stock prices, corporate profits. These metrics benefit the wealthy. They don't measure worker prosperity. Second, we've normalized debt. Society where everyone owes money looks like a consuming society. But it's actually a society transferring wealth to creditors. Third, we've decoupled production from compensation. Workers produce more than ever, but they're paid the same as 50 years ago. The difference goes to capital. The result is an illusion. America is the richest country on earth by GDP, but ranked 15th in median wealth per adult. Switzerland, Australia, Belgium, all have higher median wealth than America because they have less inequality. Their systems distribute prosperity more evenly. America optimizes for top-end wealth. We have the most billionaires, the most millionaires, the biggest companies. But the median American has less wealth than the median citizen of 14 other countries. That's not richness, it's concentration. Few people hoarding vast wealth while everyone else struggles. And the system is designed to perpetuate this. Tax policy favors capital over labor. Monetary policy inflates assets, not wages. Trade policy ships jobs overseas. Education policy burdens students with debt. Housing policy lets investors outbid families. Healthcare policy makes staying alive expensive. Every policy choice for 40 years has optimized for wealth extraction from workers to capital. And the result is what we see today. A country that looks rich from the outside, but feels poor from the inside. Because the numbers that make us look wealthy are concentrated in the hands of people who do and need more wealth, while the rest of the country barely survives. Here's what happens next. And it's not speculation, it's mathematical. The current system is unsustainable. When workers can't afford housing, birth rates collapse. America's fertility rate is now 1.6 children per woman. Below replacement, the population will start shrinking. When young people can't afford college without debt, human capital declines. Education becomes a luxury. Innovation slows. When healthcare is unaffordable, life expectancy falls. America's life expectancy is declining. First time in modern history, outside of war or pandemic, debt becomes unpayable, defaults increase. Student loan defaults are at record highs. Credit card delinquencies are rising. Auto loan defaults are spiking. When inequality reaches extremes, social cohesion breaks. Trust collapses. Political dysfunction increases. The system destabilizes. We're watching it happen in real time. Populism on the left and right. Institutional distrust, declining faith in democracy. A system that created American prosperity from 1945 to 1973 was different. Unions were strong. Taxes on the wealthy were high. Wages grew with productivity. Education was affordable. Healthcare was accessible. Housing was attainable. That system built the strongest middle class in history. Then we dismantled it. Chose a different path. Deregulation, financialization, tax cuts for the wealthy, wage suppression for workers, asset inflation without wage growth. And now we're living with the consequences. America isn't as rich as you think. Americans are broke. The GDP is high because we measure economic activity, not prosperity. The stock market is up because we printed money and gave it to investors. Corporate profits are record-breaking because we transferred wealth from labor to capital. But walk through any American city, see the homelessness, see the closed factories, see the people working 2 jobs and still struggling. That's the real America, not the stock market, not the GDP. The lived experience of ordinary people. And that experience is getting worse, not better. The system is working exactly as designed. It's just not designed for you. It's designed for the people who already have wealth, the people who own assets, the people who collect interest, the people who benefit from every policy decision that's been made for 40 years. You were told if you work hard, you'll get ahead. If you get an education, you'll be successful. If you play by the rules, you'll prosper. But the rules were written by people who don't want you to catch up. They want you to keep working, keep consuming, keep paying debt, keep transferring wealth upward, forever. America is rich. You are not. That's not an accident. That's the system. If this changed how you see American wealth, if you finally understand that 28 trillion in GDP doesn't mean prosperity for ordinary people, then you're starting to see how the game is rigged. Subscribe if you want to understand how the machine actually works, because they're not teaching you this in school. They're teaching you that America is the land of opportunity, that capitalism rewards hard work, that anyone can make it. But the data says otherwise. The system says otherwise. And the people at the top, the ones who designed this system, they already know. They've known for 40 years. Now you know too. So here's my question for you. Do you feel richer than your parents? Are you building wealth or just managing debt? Drop a comment and tell me if I'm right or if I'm missing something, because I want to know what you actually experiencing. If this video showed you the numbers they don't want you to see, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to keep breaking down exactly how the system works and who it is working for. And click on the video on your screen right now. It'll show you the next piece of the puzzle, how the system perpetuates itself and why it's almost impossible to escape. The illusion is cracking. More people are seeing it every day. Be one of them. So here's my question for you. Do you feel richer or poorer than your parents were at your age? Can you afford what they could afford? Or are you working harder for less? Drop your answer in the comments. Want to know if your experience matches the data or if I'm missing something. If this video showed you why the numbers lie, why GDP doesn't equal prosperity, hit the like button and subscribe, because the system is designed to keep you confused about who's actually winning. I'm going to keep breaking it down. And if you want to understand the other side of this equation, if you want to know where all that debt actually goes and who profits from it, click on the video on your screen right now. If all countries are in debt, who actually owns the debt? Because that's where the money you're paying actually ends up. And once you see it, you'll never look at the system the same way again.